Hi, this is Steve with Thresher Media Group. Welcome to When You're Ready to Listen. This podcast is dedicated to exploring the truth about God, things you may not have understood, may not have been taught, or quite frankly, had a very hard time believing. And since our entire relationship with God rests on believing, it is important we learn how to separate the truth from the many lies and fictions that abound within the religion of Christianity. So when you're ready to listen, tune in and discover a pathway to freedom, encouragement, life, and hope. Thresher Media Group is a 501c3 public charity, and we rely entirely on donations from our listeners. If the Spirit leads you, please support this ministry. It's easy to do. Just go to the website, threshermediagroup.com, and click the Donate tab. I'd also encourage you to go to Amazon and pick up a copy of Liberating the Book of Revelation, Returning to the Source of the Message. This book is intended to help us all know what the Spirit said and how He said it. This book is focused not on interpreting the book of Revelation, that is what the podcast is for, but on accurately representing the book of Revelation in the manner in which the Spirit originally spoke it to John. It's available in all formats, hardback, paperback, ebook, and as an audible. In our last podcast, we studied the seven heads, specifically the five ancient spirits who have fallen from their position of prominence amongst mankind, as they are no longer worshipped as gods. The sixth had not fallen, but was still worshipped as a god, and even today likely has a prominent place amongst mankind. The seventh had yet to come on the scene of humanity to be worshipped as a god, but he will remain in that place of prominence for only a short time. The eighth, who is one of the seven, is the beast, and he is doomed to destruction. Let's now pick up with a study of the 10 horns. Episode 145, Revelation 17, verses 12 through 14. The beast's kingdom. Revelation 17, 9 through 13. Here is the mind which is now having wisdom. The seven heads now are seven mountains, on which the woman now chooses to sit. And they now are seven kings. 5 fell, 1 now is. The other has not yet come, and when he may come, he now must remain a little while. The beast which was and now is not, is now himself also an eighth, and now is one of the seven, and he now goes to destruction. The 10 horns which you saw now are 10 kings, who have now not yet received a kingdom, but they now receive authority as kings with the beast for 1 hour. These now have one mind, and they now give their power and authority to the beast. The 10 horns. We have been discussing the 7 heads, which now are 7 kings, which now are 7 mountains, or kingdoms upon which this woman sits. These 7 kings are spiritual princes who rule over the territory of men. But these 7 heads also have upon them 10 horns. We're not sure how many horns are on each head, but clearly there are 3 more horns than there are heads. Revelation 17, 12 through 14. The 10 horns which you saw now are 10 kings, who have now not yet received a kingdom, but they now receive authority as kings with the beast for 1 hour. These now have one mind, and they now give their power and authority to the beast. These will, in the future, wage war against the Lamb, and the Lamb in the future will overcome them, because he now is Lord of Lords and King of Kings, and those with him, called and chosen and faithful. The fact that these 10 horns now are 10 kings, being rendered in the present tense, we know that they exist even now. Once again, the image of the beast and his kingdom is an image of what is, and not of what will be, for it is comprised of all the leadership elements that the dragon had under his control. In that light, this image of 10 kings cannot be speaking of human kings, but spiritual kings, angelic majesties that are subservient to the 7 heads. And even though they do not yet have a kingdom, the territory over which they rule, they are of a class or rank of angelic being that is deemed to be either rulers or authorities. Some people may call them territorial spirits, believing that they will rule over both spiritual and physical territories. The imagery of horns and the number 10 are code. In effect, these spirits, imaged as horns, are the tools of power and strength and might through which the spiritual princes will dominate and control, attack and defend within the realm of humanity during a time of divine testing of human affairs, indicated by the number 10. But the horns are subject to the heads upon which they sit. They are subservient spirits. These 10 horns, which now are 10 kings, are spirit beings. But they now receive authority as kings with the beast for 1 hour. This is an odd phrase, as it locks us in the present and yet bounces us forward into the future in terms of our timeline. They receive even now authority as kings, even though they have yet to receive their kingdom or territory in which they will rule. Yahweh Sabaoth, the Lord of heaven's armies, has granted them to be kings, but he has yet to grant to them any territory over which they may rule. They have no kingdoms. They must wait for the beast to be released from the abyss to exercise their authority. This lets us know that these 10 kings have been identified. They have been given their authority, and it exists even now, but they do not have the right to exercise it until the beast breaks onto the scene and Yahweh hands them their rule along with the beast. They are like horses at the beginning of a race, waiting for their gates to open so they can run the race. The potential is now there, it is just not loosened. And even though this grant of authority is for just 1 hour, rest assured this is not speaking of a literal 60 minutes. It is code. Jesus spoke about the hour of testing that would come upon the whole world to test those who are now dwelling on the earth. And an angel flying in mid-heaven, having the eternal gospel to preach, said with a loud voice, "You are commanded to be caused to fear God, and you are commanded to give him glory, for the hour of his judgment has come." Sticking to the code, their authority to function as kings impacting the world will be only for the time of testing, which will be after the first harvest, which is a reference to the rapture of the church. This is in line with the fact that Jesus promised the church at Philadelphia they would be kept from the hour of testing that is now coming upon the whole world. 10 horns to 7 horns to 8 horns. As usual, there is more to the story. The book of Daniel gives us a glimpse of what might happen to these 10 horns who receive authority as kings with the beast for 1 hour. This can get a bit convoluted, so we'll tread carefully. To start, we were never told which of the 7 heads have horns. We just know that there are 7 heads and 10 horns. Obviously, they are not evenly divided, and it is even possible that one head has all the horns. We're just not given that detail. In Daniel, we're given a description of the final world empire, this kingdom of the beast, and it is described as exceedingly dreadful. This will be a kingdom different than all others before it, and it will devour the whole earth and crush it. In this text, however, the Spirit provides us details about 3 of the 10 horns, as well as a new horn. But the image Daniel sees is different from what John saw. Daniel is given a picture of the kingdom of the beast, the final world empire in its endgame form, but his focus is drawn to a very specific horn. Daniel 7 through 8. After this, I kept looking in the night visions, and behold, a 4th beast, dreadful and terrifying and extremely strong, and it had large iron teeth. It devoured and crushed and trampled down the remainder with its feet. And it was different from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. While I was contemplating the horns, behold, another horn, a little horn, came up among them. And 3 of the first horns were pulled out by the roots before it. And behold, this horn possessed eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth uttering great boasts. And then in Daniel 7:19 through 22, then I desired to know the exact meaning of the 4th beast, which was different from all the others, exceedingly dreadful, with its teeth of iron and its claws of bronze, and which devoured, crushed, and trampled down the remainder with its feet. And the meaning of the 10 horns that were on its head, and the other horn which came up, and before which 3 of them fell, namely that horn which had eyes and a mouth uttering great boasts, and which was larger in appearance than its associates. I kept looking, and that horn was waging war with the saints and overpowering them. These passages provide us with a picture of the beast rising to power from within the kingdom that had been prepared for him. To accomplish his great task, the beast, it seems, must tear out by the roots 3 kings or 3 horns. The beast is pictured as a little horn, which was larger in appearance than its associates. And we are given the connection of this spirit being to the man we call the Antichrist, since this beast is described as having eyes like the eyes of a man and a mouth uttering great boasts. This is like a description of the beast previously given to us in Revelation chapter 13, verses 5 through 6. There was given to him a mouth speaking arrogant words and blasphemies. An authority to act for 42 months was given to him, and he opened his mouth in blasphemies against God, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle, that is, those who dwell in heaven. This is our clue that the destroyer has, at this time in the narrative, possessed the man. Little and larger. Our key to understand these passages is found in the words little and larger. In Daniel, the Spirit draws our attention to a little horn, clearly contrasting it with the 3 horns that he subdues, the 3 he rips out by the roots. But why does the Spirit refer to him as little, or literally in the Aramaic, to dwindle or to become small? Admittedly, this is speculation, but do you remember the concept we discussed regarding the great spiritual manipulation by the false trinity, comprised of the devil, who imitates the Father, the beast who imitates the Son, and the false prophet who imitates the Holy Spirit of God? For the entire world, those in the physical and unseen realms, to believe that the beast is the promised Messiah, there must be a body. The Father sent his Son into the world. Therefore, to effectively mimic the role of the Son of God, the beast must obtain a body. The beast will inhabit or possess the man we call the son of destruction, the Antichrist. In that regard, perhaps the beast is described as little or small because the Spirit is describing the time when the beast possesses the man of lawlessness. Again, the man we call the Antichrist or the son of destruction. The Spirit makes sure we know that this horn, this king, this weapon to attack and defend, possesses eyes like the eyes of a man, and the mouth uttering great boast. Hence its connection with the man. He will speak out against the Most High, and wear down, or literally in the Aramaic, afflict the holy ones of the highest one. And after seeing images of the kingdom of the beast that was dreadful and terrifying, Daniel is shown a spiritual king of great stature, greater in glory than all the other kings, than all the other horns. But he is contained within a man, hence the eyes and the mouth uttering great boast. Having possessed a man, he is described as little or small, because this mighty spirit has literally dwindled himself down to the level of a man. And the codex is clear. Mankind has been made lower or lesser than the angels. Yet this little horn will be different from the other horns because he is described as larger in appearance than the others. The word translated as larger does not mean bigger in mass or size. Rather, it comes from the Aramaic word rab, which means that this little horn was larger in rank or stature, often used in association with like a chief, a captain, or a lord. Though all the horns are identified as spiritual kings, this little horn is of a rank of spiritual being that is even higher in power and glory than the others, hence his association with the 7 heads. Apparently, his very appearance reveals his exalted stature. Accordingly, he is imaged as the behemoth in the book of Job. It seems that only the dragon exceeds this angel in glory, rank, or stature. Violence. Daniel 7:24 through 25. As for the 10 horns, out of this kingdom 10 kings will arise, and another will arise after them, and he will be different from the previous ones, and will subdue 3 kings. He will speak out against the Most High and wear down the saints of the highest one. And he will intend to make alterations in times and in law, and they will be given into his hand for time, times, and half a time. We can be confident Daniel is addressing the same beast because Revelation 13:7 confirms it. It was also given to him to make war with the saints and to overcome them. An authority over every tribe and people and tongue and nation was given to him. Daniel 7:7 through 8. While I was contemplating the horns, Behold, another horn, a little one, came up among them. And 3 of the first horns were pulled out by their roots before it. And behold, this horn possessed eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth uttering great boast. At this time in our Revelation narrative, the beast will have physically possessed the man we call the Antichrist, much like Satan possessed Judas prior to his plan to afflict Christ and to overcome him. This is where the physical and the spiritual start to become merged. Whether it happens immediately before he possesses the man or shortly thereafter, the beast will dispose of 3 of the 10 horns in a very violent manner, pulling them out by the roots. It should be noted that the demonic realm is not comprised of a cohesive and loyal set of players. They are all out for themselves, all out for their own glory. This is the reason why the Spirit told us that when the dragon gives the beast his power, throne, and great authority, that the other spirits were amazed, wonderstruck, and in an expression of worship stated, "Who can now be caused to wage war with him?" The point being that if he was not supercharged, some demon would have challenged him in war for his position and prominence. This is just a glimpse into the demonic mindset. It's all about power and glory, and those who want it must take it. Perhaps these horns were sitting on one head, perhaps the seat of authority that the beast, when he was known as Chemosh, previously held, and abandoned when he was cast down to the abyss. In his rise to prominence as the horn that is larger in appearance, grandeur, and glory, takes back full control, and in so doing, disposes of 3 of these horns. It's a good thing that these now have one mind, and they now give their power and authority to the beast. Modern narrative. The 10 horns which you saw now are 10 kings, who have not yet received a kingdom, but they now receive authority as kings with the beast for 1 hour. In the most popular end times narratives, it is said that these 10 horns are the spiritual forces behind a coalition of 10 nations that come to power during the tribulation, of which the Antichrist will overthrow 3 of these nations. With the merging of the spiritual and the physical, this is likely a way that this might play out in the realm of mankind. They have no territories as of yet, but for that 1 hour, they will be able to exercise their authority as kings in both the spiritual realms and, likely, the physical realms. The kingdom of the beast. These now have one mind, and they now give their power and authority to the beast. These 10 horns that will be reduced to 7 by the plucking out of 3 horns, and then become a total of 8 with the growth of the little horn, now have one purpose, or one cognition, one mind. And since this is rendered in the present tense, once again, we can be confident that we are still dealing with spirits, authorities in the angelic realm that exercise rule in the province of man through human authorities. These spirits now have this purpose in their hearts and minds, and they've already, even now, decided to give their power and authority to the beast. Perhaps they are even now spreading his doctrines throughout the world, denying that Jesus is the Christ. Accordingly, we can be 100% confident that these horns are not human. In the future, they may obtain control over human territories or kingdoms over which they physically impact humanity. And they may control human leaders in the same way that the little horn will possess the man we call the Antichrist. But they are spirits. We need to remember that the kingdom of the beast, that terrifying monstrosity, arrives on the earth before the beast is released from the abyss. This was pictured for us in the second trumpet blast, where we were told the second angel sounded, and something like a great mountain burning with fire was thrown into the sea. And a third of the sea became blood, and a third of the creatures which were in the sea and had life died, and a third of the ships were destroyed. The beast, however, is not released until the 5th trumpet. As for the man, the Antichrist, in Revelation 4, we discovered that from the time the kingdom of the beast emerges at the 2nd trumpet to the time that the beast, the destroyer, emerges from the abyss at the 5th trumpet, he, the man, the Antichrist, will first be possessed by a lesser demon, imaged as a hawk, whereas the beast is imaged as an eagle, a larger, more powerful and aggressive raptor. Empowered by a powerful demon described as a hawk, this man will build and establish the kingdom through violence and secure its place amongst the sea of humanity, preparing for the time when the beast will be released. Shortly after his release from the abyss, the man will then become possessed by the beast, this much larger demonic spirit imaged as an eagle. It is then that he will manifest through the man as the one who has come instead of Christ and in opposition to Christ. The point being is that when the beast comes on the scene and supplants three kings, the kingdom is already in a place and established. He will just take it to an entirely new level of evil and dominance. Intent on war. Revelation 17:14. These will in the future wage war against the Lamb, and the Lamb in the future will overcome them, because he now is the Lord of Lords and King of Kings, and those with him called and chosen and faithful. The code suddenly switches as this sentence drives us forward into the future of what has yet to be. They will in the future wage war against the Lamb, and the Lamb will in the future overcome them. There is no if and no but here. The Lamb wins, and they will die, just like mere men. The spirit princes, the hosts of heaven on high, and the kings of the earth, the spiritual rulers who are the powers behind their human counterparts, will be overcome and punished. Isaiah 24:19 through 23. The earth is broken asunder. The earth is split through. The earth is shaken violently. The earth reels to and fro like a drunkard, and it totters like a shack, for its transgression is heavy upon it, and it will fall, never to rise again. So it will happen in that day that Yahweh will punish the hosts of heaven on high and the kings of the earth on the earth. They will be gathered together like prisoners in the dungeon, and will be confined in prison, and after many days they will be punished. Then the moon will be abashed and the sun ashamed. For Yahweh Sabaoth, the Lord of hosts, will reign on Mount Zion and in Jerusalem, and his glory will be before his elders. Jesus is victory. Jesus is victorious because he now is Lord of Lords and King of Kings. It is more than ironic that all the antagonists in this story, whether the dragon, the beast, the false prophet, the angelic kings, princes, the woman who rides the beast, the hosts of angelic authorities, along with all the armies of darkness, without exception, they all report to Yahweh Sabaoth, the Lord of heaven's armies. He is the Lord of Lords. They are his subjects, and they do as he has determined, as it has been written or decreed. It is and will all play out exactly as he has prescribed. He is also the King of Kings. All other rulership is subordinate to him, whether spiritual or human. There is no one, absolutely no one, that can make this claim. The beast will never truly stand in place of Jesus. He is not another and never will be. He is deeply delusional to think he could ever have victory over the Lamb of God. Daniel chapter 4, verse 34 through 35. I, Nebuchadnezzar, raised my eyes towards heaven, and my reason returned to me, and I blessed the Most High, and praised and honored him who lives forever. For his dominion is an everlasting dominion, and his kingdom endures from generation to generation. All the inhabitants of the earth are accounted as nothing, but he does according to his will in the hosts of heaven and among the inhabitants of the earth, and no one can ward off his hand or say to him, "What have you done?" Said by the greatest king who ever lived, this statement captures better than anything else the truth that Yahweh, Jesus, is the Lord of Lords and King of Kings. What does this mean for us? No matter what is going on in our world, we should never fear the outcome of this story. Jesus wins, and so will his bondservants, those who are called and chosen and faithful. He died, and so they too will die, both to their flesh, and many will give up their very lives. But with him, they will win for all eternity. Therefore, we must not let our hearts become fearful. We must remain hopeful of our inevitable victory in him. Jesus is the GOAT, the greatest of all time. There is none who compares. Called and chosen and faithful. And those with him called and chosen and faithful. Let's stop here. This next section is so paramount to our understanding the purposes of God in our lives and who it is that will be ruling the kingdom of God as the bride of Christ. I am glad you tuned in and have been ready to listen. To get a free download of the full written transcript with all the scripture references footnoted, please go to threshermediagroup.com. That is THRESHER mediagroup.com. This is Steve with Thresher Media Group. When you're ready to listen, tune in.